This NFL offseason has obviously been a strange one. After all, dealing with the whole global pandemic thing is not exactly just your run-of-the-mill NFL activity. But it wasn't just the external factors that have made this offseason a particularly weird one. How about the fact that for the entire offseason, while a number of teams, who we won't necessarily put on blast right now, no matter how much they deserve it, were floundering about in quarterback purgatory without a legitimate signal caller to their name? A former MVP out there, up for grabs. That's right, none other than Cam Newton, the same guy who led Auburn to the national championship and carried the Carolina Panthers, who had a skeleton crew for their wide receiver core, on his back all the way to the Super Bowl. At least he was, because finally one team, the New England Patriots, of course, slid in and scooped him up on an incentive-laden $7.5 million deal that is sure to pay dividends if he is fully recovered from the litany of injuries that have plagued him over the past few seasons in Carolina. And of course, it was the Patriots. For some reason, they seem to be the only team with a strong enough infrastructure to take on these allegedly risky signings, which, if you ask me, this hardly is. Signing Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown, okay, I could see the risk factor there. Volatile personalities, red flags aplenty. But to acquire a 31-year-old quarterback who has a physical skill set like very few men that have ever walked this earth, on a 1-year prove-it deal? Right after your quarterback of 20 years skips town. This signing made all the sense in the world. In fact, it would have for a lot of teams. Say, for example, the Indianapolis Colts, another win-now team who acquired a veteran quarterback in hopes that he would carry the rest of the squad to the promised land. But instead of getting a 31-year-old Newton, well, I guess they're going to battle with the Phillip Rivers that'll turn 39 before the 2020 season is over. Not to mention the fact that he is coming off of a season in which he looked completely washed up. But for some reason, it seemed like they wouldn't even look Cam's way. I know a lot of people still just remember the business decision, and less the flattering post-game presser that he ended up giving, but at the end of the day, that 2015 campaign was one impressive season from Cam Newton. 15-1, NFC champions, NFL MVP. And it's not like he was just some one-hit wonder. When he's healthy, Cam has been one of the most dynamic quarterbacks we have ever seen, pretty much ever. The consistency hasn't always been there, but in a league where you need guys to make big plays to win big games, Cam definitely stands out, which poses the question, if there was such demand at the quarterback position around the league, and let's be honest, there always is, then why in the world was Cam Newton the last kid picked at recess? And what is the real reason that the New England Patriots, over 3 full months after NFL free agency started for the 2020 season, finally pulled the trigger and brought Superman to Foxborough? First, let's take a look at what transpired during Cam's so-called free agency. People thought he was going to the Chargers. Phillip Rivers had just set sail for Indy, not that they were begging him to come back anyways, and they really didn't have a bona fide starting quarterback on their roster. But instead of Cam, they went with a medley of quarterback mediocrity featuring the rookie Justin Herbert, the journeyman fringe starter Tyrod Taylor, and a second-year quarterback who has a far more interesting name than he does a skill set, Easton Stick. Similar rumors were floating around the Redskins. They had recently invested a pretty high draft pick at the quarterback position, but it isn't like Dwayne Haskins showed us anything last year that made you jump out of your seat in excitement. And I guess Alex Smith is supposed to be coming back from the brink of retirement, but who knows what he'll look like after that nasty train wreck of a knee injury. Oh, and the Broncos. Don't get me started on the Broncos. The point is, the list goes on and on. There are more than a handful of teams that just a few years ago would have been begging Cam, the Panthers, maybe even Roger Goodell, and all just to get their hands on the promising young quarterback. Yet, here we are, approaching 5 years removed from Cam's near Super Bowl run, and over 4 months since the end of the 2019 NFL season, and there's one unmissable, irreconcilable fact. Cam Newton remained unsigned for nearly 3.5 months. Sure, there were some mild character concerns. He's always appeared, at least through the media's lens, to be a bit of the selfish superstar trope, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard a single teammate utter a bad word about him. Of course, he has his ridiculous hats and outfits, so lest we forget his absurd, possibly self-created language that he's been spotted using on Instagram and in text messages more than a couple of times over the past couple years. But let's be honest, Cam is not a bad guy. At least, not that the public has seen. And the folks down in Carolina raved about how much he gave back to the community. By all accounts, his teammates loved him. I know, the bizarro texting language was pretty indefensible, but knowing Belichick, he'll either ban it from the premises or have it worked into the playbook somehow. And nothing in between. Either way, the biggest attraction that was keeping Newton from getting signed, in addition to his large personality and the associated risk of media distractions, just had to be the injury concern. The Pro Bowl quarterback has been banged up a fair amount over the past few seasons. Missing just 3 games between 2016 and 2018 was not indicative of how firm a grasp the injury bug had on him. And the reality is, with all the other factors at play, no other team appeared willing to give the former NFL MVP a chance. I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into running an NFL franchise that I don't fully understand. But from an outside perspective, the whole situation was remarkably confounding. So what was it that made Belichick decide that he was going to be the guy to take the chance and make it happen? In short, there are a few factors at play. For starters, let's touch on the obvious. We are talking about the NFL in 2020 and the New England Patriots in 2020, and Tom Brady is nowhere to be found. The reality of the situation is that the Patriots are in uncharted territory. They haven't really had to worry about who is taking snaps under center, 2008 notwithstanding, since the last millennium. But here we are in 2020, and Tom Brady is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, as strange as that sounds. There is no denying that Brady's departure played a huge role in this decision. Not only does Brady's absence open up a huge hole at the quarterback position, and a very legitimate concern as far as having a proven winner at the helm, but it also left them with plenty of salary cap to throw around. And it's not like Belichick would bring Newton in as a backup for Brady. Nor do I think that he's bringing Newton in as a backup to Jarrett Stidham, the other Auburn product, who everyone had already penciled in as their apparent quarterback in New England. And realistically speaking, Belichick got a steal by signing Cam Newton on the cheap when you think about it. Most quarterbacks in the NFL are making at least $20 million a year, and the elite quarterbacks, which Cam indisputably is when he is healthy, well, you see those guys cashing checks deep into the $30 million plus range. Yet somehow, the Patriots ended up with Cam Newton on a deal that is worth up to just $7.5 million a year, which is worth $13 million plus less than his last contract was annually. And you know what? Belichick knew he was getting an insane amount of value at that salary number. He's been high on Newton for years now. I mean, come on, check out what the Sith Lord himself had to say about Cam ahead of the New England's upcoming contest with Newton's Panthers. I think when you're talking about mobile quarterbacks, guys that are tough to handle, can throw, run, make good decisions, I would put him at the top of the list, Belichick said Wednesday. Not saying there aren't a lot of other good players that do that, but I would say of all the guys we played recently in the last couple years, I think he's the hardest guy to defend. He makes good decisions, can run, he's strong, he's hard to tackle, he can do a lot of different things. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. We saw that in the game in 2013. I would put him at the top of the list. I'm not saying the other guys aren't a problem, because they are, but he's maybe public enemy number 1. Former New England Patriots legend Malcolm Butler, who secured the game-saving interception in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks back in 2014, shared a similar sentiment ahead of the contest, comparing Deshaun Watson's explosive performance to an up-and-coming Cam Newton. Granted, this was a couple years ago, but Newton looked great before the injuries were piling up, and the last time he played a full season, the Panthers went 11-5. Barring some sort of chronic condition, one that left him completely unable to play, Cam is still a way better option than any of the other free agent quarterbacks we saw scoop up deals this offseason. So maybe it's just a matter of time. Maybe the Patriots just needed to do whatever CIA level due diligence it is that they do to make sure that a player is worthy to step on the field for them. Who knows though? Maybe this was in the works all offseason, and the two sides had been talking, waiting on coronavirus to calm down at least a little bit to get a full read on the condition that Cam's body was in. Or if you want to get really crazy, maybe they struck a deal early in free agency, and they knew that the sanctions were going to be coming down following the whole getting caught filming the field and sideline during a game between the Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns back in December of 2019. Then, all of a sudden, the $1.1 million fine and the third-round pick getting ripped from Belichick's clutches becomes lost in the shuffle because everyone is all frantic that Cam Newton is actually getting signed to a team for 2020. Obviously, this is all hypothesizing. But who knows the bounds of the Patriots organization? They do run more like a secret society than a professional football team. Conspiracy theories aside, this is a good thing for pretty much everyone except Jarrett Stidham. The NFL no longer has to answer the question as to why one of its premier talents was remaining unsigned. The Patriots get a big-time roll of the dice in expediting their rebuild following the departure of Tom Brady. And Cam? Well, Cam gets a chance to go out there and prove that he still has what it takes to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Which is something that keeps resurfacing in the news over and over. Just how hungry Cam Newton is to show everyone that his once promising NFL career is not going to be washed away before he turns 32. He now has a chance to prove all of the haters wrong. Will he? Well, only time will tell. But ever the opportunist, Bill Belichick and the Pats were ready to give him this chance. And at the minuscule cost of $7.5 million. Obviously, it's gonna cost them way more to retain him if he does go out there and prove it this year. But if you ask me, this was simply too good of a move for Belichick and the New England Patriots to pass on. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.